Hey guys, welcome back to my coverage of the 2018 Academy Awards predictions, and the category up for discussion today is Best Adapted Screenplay. Thankfully, I didn't struggle as much with this category as I did with Best Original Screenplay. If you want to see my thoughts and predictions on that, be sure to click the link, it's just up there right now. Yeah, that was a toughie. But when it comes to Best Adapted Screenplay, it certainly is an interesting year because the nominees this year have completely revolutionized what can make it into the race. This year we have the first Netflix film to get a nomination with Mudbound. And Logan is the first ever comic book adaptation to get an acknowledgement for Best Adapted Screenplay. 2 unprecedented inclusions in 1 year. Thank you very much, Academy. Very generous of you. But as for predicting this category goes, it doesn't feel too much of a challenge for me this one. As always, if you want my full updated list of predictions on Oscar night March 4th, be sure to add me on Twitter. That's my Twitter addy on the screen right now. So because there's not as much to discuss in this category compared to Best Original Screenplay, I'm just going to follow the typical route that I usually do in my prediction videos. That being a list of nominees, who got snubbed, my initial thoughts, and then the nominees' previous Academy history, and then who I want to win, and then who I think will win. So let's get to it. The nominees for the 2018 Best Adapted Screenplay are Dee Reese and Virgil Williams for Mudbound, Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber for The Disaster Artist, Aaron Sorkin for Molly's Game, James Ivory for Call Me By Your Name, and Scott Frank, Michael Green, and James Mangold for Logan. So my initial thoughts, it's quite an eclectic selection this year, mostly male dominated, but Dee Reese was a nice inclusion, a well-deserved inclusion, along with Virgil Williams for Mudbound. Netflix have been pushing for years to try and get Academy recognition, and now they've finally done it with Mudbound, and they surpassed themselves by getting 4 nominations. That's a really impressive achievement. And Logan too is highly deserving of the nomination. Far too often are superhero films written off for their whimsical content, when they've actually profoundly moved mass audiences with films like The Dark Knight, Captain America Civil War, and more recently, Black Panther. So Logan's nomination is completely worthy. As far as snubs go for this category, there wasn't anybody in particular that I was massively upset that didn't get into this category. But there were a few writers that were in contention that sadly didn't get a nomination, and they include Lee Hall for Victoria and Abdul, Sofia Coppola for The Beguiled, Matt Greenhalgh for Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, and Alice Birch for Lady Macbeth. Let's have a look at the nominees' previous history with the Academy. Now, out of the 5 nominees, James Ivory has been nominated for an Oscar a total of 4 times, okay? Making him the most experienced nominee in this category with the Academy. His nomination for Call Me By Your Name is his 4th time being nominated, and his previous nominations come for films A Room with a View in 1987, Howard's End for 1993, and The Remains of the Day in 1994. And James Ivory has never previously won an Oscar. This is Aaron Sorkin's 3rd time being nominated now with Molly's Game. His previous nominations came back in 2012 for Moneyball and 2011 for The Social Network. And The Social Network, he actually won the Oscar for. And out of all the other nominees, there's only one other person that's ever been nominated, and that's Scott Frank, who is 1/3 of the trio of writers who wrote Logan. His previous nomination was for Out of Sight in 1999, but sadly he didn't win. And everybody else is a first-time nominee, so congrats to them. So out of the 5 films in this category, I have seen 4 of them. Mudbound, Logan, Call Me By Your Name, and The Disaster Artist. I haven't seen Molly's Game yet, but I promise I will get around to it because I'm a huge fan of Aaron Sorkin's work. Now, out of those 4 films that I've seen, 3 of them I adored. The Disaster Artist, Call Me By Your Name, and Logan. In fact, they all made an appearance in my top 10 favourite films of 2017. If you want to find out where they placed, there's a link above me right now if you want to check that out. Now, if any of those 3 did end up winning, I would be happy. Logan was a somber character/family drama with a brooding western vibe, and it was probably the best superhero film ever scripted. Just saying. The Disaster Artist was consistently funny, and it's a film for the fools out there who dare to dream. And Call Me By Your Name was a heart-tugging, coming-of-age romance for the ages. But when it comes down to who I want to win, the person I would say that I want in my heart most to win is James Ivory for Call Me By Your Name. As much as I loved Logan, its very existence in this category is enough of a win for me, and it's an encouraging step forward for superhero films in general. And The Disaster Artist was so easy to love, but it does have a few issues with the exploration of some of its supporting characters. But Call Me By Your Name is the standout for me because it connected with me on a personal level, and I fell in love with this movie in so many ways. I just really want it to win. But as always, it doesn't come down to who I want to win, but who I think will win. But in this case, the person who I want to win is the person who I think will win. So, drum roll please. The person that I think is going to win the Oscar for the 2018 Best Adapted Screenplay will be James Ivory for Call Me By Your Name. And there's a few reasons why I think this. Besides it being an immensely powerful movie and the most deserving, James Ivory is the most seasoned of all the nominees. 3 previous nominations and no wins, so the Academy will probably think that he has paid his dues and it's his time. Call Me By Your Name is also the only film of the 5 nominees which is also up for Best Picture, which means it has a better chance of being seen by more members of the Academy, which does give it an advantage. But also, Call Me By Your Name was also criminally underlooked in this year's nominations. It only ended up getting 4. 1 for Best Adapted Screenplay, 1 for Best Actor for Timothée Chalamet, 1 for Best Song, and 1 for Best Picture. Now, that's not a bad haul, but I was expecting some love for Armie Hammer or Michael Stuhlbarg in the Best Supporting Actor category, and it was a very competitive year for Best Direction, but I was really hoping for some love for Luca Guadagnino for Best Director. And Sayombu Mcdeeprom. God, that's a fun one to say. And Sayombu Mcdeeprom for cinematography. I hope to God I just said his name right. Anyway, I can't be the only one that was infatuated with Call Me By Your Name. I do think the Academy will want to award it in some way, and I think Best Adapted Screenplay is the most likeliest where it's going to win. So that's where I'm going to put my money. There you have it, guys, my prediction for the 2018 Best Adapted Screenplay. But who do you think's going to win? Whatever you think, do let me know in the comments section below. More prediction videos are on the way, including Best Supporting Actor and Actress, as well as Best Picture and Best Director. So if you don't want to miss those, be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell if you want to get those alerts. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Airfield, and I'll see you next time.